Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Honorable Prime Minister, ambassadors from China and Antigua's non-resident ambassador, members of the Chinese delegation, the press, good morning. I think it's important for us to establish the processes used in arriving at this plant. And I want to make a distinction between a power, because all I've heard about is engines. I haven't heard about a power plant. Engines are not a power plant. There are a number of other components. There are the auxiliaries, there's the lubrication system, there's the water coolant system, there are the storage tanks, there are the buildings, etc., that all go towards making a power plant. And I will speak then to a power plant. As far as APUA is concerned, we insisted that we be an integral part of the design of this plant. We were. From construction, from excavation of a hole to put a foundation block in, to the completion and examination and the commissioning of the actual engines. APUA has asked, and our technicians examined and agreed that the plant will be done, the engines will be built, to our specifications, and the plant will be done to our requirements. So consequently, given the location, we were not prepared to accept a steel frame and a galvanized clad building. We prefer to accept a building that was constructed to meet hurricane resistance standards. So when we're talking about construction, we're talking about a building, as far as we're concerned, and our engineers say is capable of meeting the demands of the worst possible storm that we could imagine. Of course, what we can imagine is not necessarily what we will get, but we can only work on our experiences. That's the first point I'd like to make. The second point I'd like to make is that we insisted our roles in this whole operation were as outlined by the manager from Exim Bank. That is the verification that the technical and construction works that were agreed upon and the schedule of payments that should be made in lieu of the completion of those works were verified. So consequently, Beijing Construction Company, according to the terms of the agreement, were made an initial payment for mobilization and getting started. And then there was, by contract, a series of works that were to be completed, and the process of payment went to a recommendation by APUA's engineers that the work specified in the contract was complete, and consequently the Ministry of Finance was now authorized to say to the Exim Bank that Beijing Construction was authorized to collect the money as specified in the contract. So that, in support for what Ambassador Shaul has stated, none of the monies are handled either by APUA or the government of Antigua, but are paid directly on verification that work was completed and the scheduled amounts against the contract for that work could be paid. I wish to make one other point, because this subject of this new power plant has been a subject of political football. Fortunately, I'm not a politician, so I don't need to get into that. But the reality of the social consequences of APUA's role in the process of delivering services to the nation must be addressed. APUA has not been afforded the opportunity to get into any re-energizing of its plants for over 45 years prior to this plant. The last surge in intern investment in the generation capability occurred with the Merleys plant on Friars Hill Road, and that is over 40 years ago. And if my technicians are correct, that was a reconditioned plant, not a brand new plant. So maybe people who speak to the question of whether a plant is new or old do so from the perspective that they are accustomed to buy old plants. Let me assure you that this one is new. Let me assure you that APUA ensured that it would do the due diligence necessary to get effective and proper plans. When we applied, when we recommended to the government, when I say we, I mean the Board of Commissioners and the management, recommended to the government that we acquired plants, the question was, what kind of plant are we going to get? What kind of engines are we going to get in a plant? Our conclusion was, having looked at the choices available to us and listening to industry information, the two principal producers of engines are Wärtsilä and MAN. APUA has had experience with MAN because the current Merleys engines that we had at Friars Hill are MAN engines, and we were convinced that our people could adjust to MAN improved technology better than we would adjust to a completely new system. So we chose to go with MAN engines. We then said to the MAN representatives for this region, if MAN engines are to be used and they are to be produced in China, who are the best companies that you have? Because MAN has 40 factories, there are 40 factories in China producing engines on the MAN license. We then requested of the MAN representatives to tell us which were the best of the producers. They identified, this was done without knowledge of Beijing construction, they identified the top 3, and in fact, the one that was being recommended to us by Beijing was the same one that the MAN representative in this region that said, if you're going to use any companies in China, use this one. That was the basis of our choice of the manufacturers of the engines. I would also like to make one other input into this discussion, because there is a financial reason why APUA board and management supported the acquisition of new engines. APUA is the only public utilities that I know in this Caribbean region who had minimal to non-generating capacity and called themselves electric utility companies. APUA had been systematically bled of its capacity to be a generator, so that APUA was sidelined to the position of being a distributor, a net purchaser of current. It was the view of the board when we took over, the current board took over in 2006, 2007, that for the viability of APUA's electrical capacity to be assured, then we needed to get into the generating business. And why is that? Because when we look at the numbers in terms of what we are paying for energy to private producers, we thought that we were paying out net monies for which we had no interest in terms of ownership of the equipment. And how did we get to that conclusion? When we look at our numbers, if we look at how much we have paid for electricity generation, this does not include the provision of fuel, which we have to do as per contract. Over the last 10 years, we have paid to the sole provider of energy, to $391 million. plus the cost of fuel, you can understand the net drain on APUA. That $391 million represents capital for amortizing, in the first instance, a 12-megawatt plant that should have become the property of APUA in 2008, having expired its 12 years, but which contract was rolled over in 2003 with the addition of an additional 15-megawatt capacity to take it to 27, and rolled over to expire in 15 additional years. In other words, the first 12-megawatt plant, of which we had a net investment because it was supposed to be a boot operation, which was transferable for $1 at the end of 12 years, suddenly in year 8 got subsumed in a new agreement that carried it for a further 15 years. In other words, we would have paid for that 12 megawatt. We should have finished paying for it in 2008. It would have become the property of APUA in 2008. The acquisition for $1 was deferred till 2018, so that an additional 10 years. We decided that that was not a feasible or contingent or a considerate position for a company that calls itself a utility provider, electrical utility provider, to sustain. So the board and management of APUA recommended to the government that it sought new funding for a new plant and that it should assiduously pursue the offer or the intention of the government of the People's Republic of China to facilitate a new plant. I'm not usually one to talk about business relationships, but since it has been poured in the public domain, let us analyze